Hi everyone. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining the assignment for writing project number 3. So writing project number 3 is about a raisin in the sun, and here's specifically what I want you to be discussing. So it says here, the play A Raisin in the Sun was written in 1959. That's 62 years ago, so a fairly long time ago. A lot has changed in America in that time. Legally enforced segregation has ended. What I mean by legally enforced segregation is where there were actual laws about things, right? There were laws about where people could sit on the bus. And if you sat on the bus in the wrong place, you could actually be arrested. And that was the kind of segregation we had in the South. So that has disappeared. And then the kind of overt discrimination that Linder displays has mostly disappeared. So Linder shows up and says, we don't want you moving in the neighborhood. He tries to pretend like he's being very nice about it, but he is saying the people don't want black people living in the neighborhood. That kind of discrimination, where he says that kind of openly, is not as common as it was then. So those things have mostly disappeared. There are other ways that discrimination happens, especially in neighborhoods. Again, you can look around neighborhoods that we have and realize that certain people live in certain places, and we might think about how that happens. But in any case, a lot has definitely changed in the time period. So the topic I want you to respond to for this essay is whether or not you feel reading A Raisin in the Sun has help you think about the present day differently than you did before reading the play. So is there anything in the present that makes you say, "Oh, wait a minute, I've read this play, and now I understand something about the present day in a different way." Okay, and it's really cause you to think differently. So you will need to use both specific evidence from the play, so that's quotes from the play, right? We've got to have some specific quotes from the play, as well as evidence from your own life to support your thesis. Both of those things. I'm going to need specific quotes from the play, and I'm going to need evidence for your own life, right? So you've got to include both of those things in the assignment. The thesis for this project must not only state whether or not reading the play has caused you to think about the present day differently. That's one thing it has to, that whether or not it's caused you to think about the present day differently, but also exactly what about the present day you might think about differently. So you have to tell us exactly what you might think about differently. So you can't say, after reading this play, I think about the present day differently. That can't be a good thesis. You can't say, after thinking about this play, I do not think about the present day differently. That's not a good thesis. Let's look at what a good thesis would be. This is what I have here on the page. So, for example, a good thesis about how the play has caused you to think differently might say something like, after reading the play A Raisin in the Sun, I better understand how the problem of recent polar bear attacks in Alaska is not a new problem, but one that has been building for decades. Now, obviously, there's no way that A Raisin in the Sun sheds any light on polar bear attacks in Alaska. I'm just using that as an example, so I don't give you any ideas. But notice what I say in this bold area, right? That I don't just say after reading the play Raisin in the Sun, I can see that there's a connection between the past and the present. I'm talking specifically about recent polar bear attacks, and I'm saying that those things are not a new problem. Those problems with polar bear attacks have been building for decades, right? And we can see how A Raisin in the Sun might help us understand the connection across those decades. Again, obviously, polar bear attacks don't have anything to do with this, uh, um, but that is going to. But you can see how you might come up with a different topic here. I then say, however, if you don't think that the play has caused you to think differently about the present day, your thesis might look like this. Many people believe that the play A Raisin in the Sun helps readers better understand the relationship between polar bear attacks in the past and those happening now. Some people might think that. And this person's going to say, however, so much about human interactions with polar bears has changed over the last 60 years that much of what the play has to say isn't really helpful anymore. So, again, this just doesn't say, hey, by the way, there's nothing relevant in this play. It's relevant to the play, but it really isn't relevant anymore. Okay, and I've defined that very specifically. One thing to keep in mind here is that realize that a thesis can be more than one sentence, so it's perfectly fine that this is our full thesis here. Uh, um, and it might take a little bit of time to develop that. But again, the bold part is really important. So notice how the bold parts of the theses discuss specifically what you understand better, or what the play tries to get the reader to understand. That you've got to have this bold part in here about specifically what we might understand or not understand. I know that's potentially difficult with things that you don't understand, but you can come up with things. Look, there seems to be an idea that some people think might relate to the present tense, but here's why it doesn't actually relate to the present. Okay. I then say, then in the body of your essay, you'll need to support your thesis by providing evidence from the text you have chosen, as well as examples from your own experiences. I said that before, but I want to say that again. That's really important. It's in bold, again, to make sure you're clear about that. You must have specific quotes from the text and examples from your own experiences to support your ideas. We've got to have both of those. Okay. This project needs to be 750 words long and an MLA format. And then down here, I have the rubric. Again, the rubric is just to help you as you move from the rough draft to the final draft and to see what your improvement is. And so the thesis explains specifically whether the play has caused you to think differently as well as what you think differently about, right? So make sure you've got that strong thesis. The body provides quotes from the text and personal examples that directly support that thesis. The paragraphs are effectively organized and the writing is clear, concise, and specific. So those are the things that I'm going to be looking for the on this as we move from the rough draft to the final draft. So that is the assignment for writing project number 3. You're going to do a writing plan for that. Again, you've done a writing plan, just your previous writing plans where you're going to have a thesis and a number of topic sentences. So, and then you can go ahead and submit that on Blackboard. So we've got all that. And again, as always, if you have any questions, make sure to email me.